Have you ever noticed how a single negative thought can hijack your entire day? You wake up feeling fine, the sun is shining, the coffee smells great, and then one small inconvenience happens. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get a critical email, or a memory from the past flashes in your mind. Suddenly it's as if your mind says, yes, let's replay every negative thing that has ever happened to you. And without realizing it, you start spiraling. Negative thinking is like an uninvited guest in your home. It shows up without warning, stays far too long, and eats up all your joy before leaving you exhausted. And the most dangerous part, many of us have gotten so used to it that we don't even recognize when it's happening. We confuse negativity for being realistic, when in truth, it's poisoning our peace, our potential, and our purpose. If you want to live a truly fulfilling life, you have to make a conscious decision. I will no longer let my mind bully me. You have to kill your negative thinking before it kills your dreams. And no, this isn't about pretending bad things don't exist. Life will always have challenges, but the way we think about them determines whether we rise or collapse. Here's the hard truth. Your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. If you allow it to feed on fear, criticism, and self-doubt, it will drag you down into places you were never meant to live. But if you feed it with gratitude, hope, and solutions, it becomes the greatest force pushing you toward your destiny. You see, your thoughts are not just thoughts, they are seeds. Every single day, you are planting something in the garden of your mind. Negative thoughts grow weeds that choke out joy, opportunity, and peace. Positive thoughts grow fruit that nourishes your life and the lives of those around you. The question is, what are you planting today? Negative thinking often disguises itself. It tells you, I'm just protecting you from disappointment, or I'm just preparing you for the worst. But the reality is, it's keeping you trapped in a prison where you're afraid to try, afraid to trust, and afraid to believe. It's like keeping the brakes pressed in a car and wondering why you're not moving forward. The moment you recognize that you are not your thoughts, that you are the driver, not the passenger, you take back control. You can't stop a negative thought from knocking at your door, but you can decide whether to invite it in and serve it tea. You can say, thank you for your input, but I'm choosing a different perspective. Start small. The next time you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, replace it with, I will figure this out. Instead of nothing ever works for me, try, this challenge is preparing me for something better. Over time, these small shifts create massive change. Because the truth is, positive thinking doesn't guarantee a perfect life. It simply gives you the strength to keep moving forward when life is far from perfect. Remember, your mind will believe whatever you tell it, so tell it something worth believing. Speak life over your circumstances, speak hope into your future, and protect your peace like it's your greatest treasure, because it is. The moment you kill your negative thinking, you don't just change your thoughts, you change your entire life. Your thoughts are not just random sparks of the brain. They are the architects of your reality. Everything you experience in life is filtered through the lens of your thinking. Two people can walk through the same storm, face the same obstacles, and yet one comes out stronger while the other comes out broken. The difference is not in the storm, it's in the story they told themselves while walking through it. Your thoughts don't just observe your life, they create the meaning you attach to it. And that meaning shapes how you feel, how you act, and ultimately what you become. If you constantly think, I am not good enough, That thought will dictate how you walk into a room, how you speak to people, and the opportunities you dare or don't dare to take. On the other hand, if you train your mind to say, I am learning, growing, and improving, you'll approach the same situations with courage and openness. The outer world may look the same, but the inner world will shape whether you see it as a battlefield or a playground. This is why it's often said, change your thoughts, change your life. The power lies not in trying to control every external factor, but in mastering the inner narrative that responds to those factors. Our thoughts are like seeds. When we plant seeds of negativity, self-doubt, fear, resentment, they don't stay small. They grow roots deep into our subconscious and bear fruit in the form of anxiety, procrastination, and self-sabotage. But the reverse is also true. Plant seeds of gratitude, possibility, and resilience, and over time they blossom into confidence, creativity, and peace. Your mind is a garden that will grow whatever you plant, whether you are intentional about it or not. And the frightening truth is, most people let weeds grow without even realizing it. Think about the times you've said to yourself, this always happens to me, or I can't catch a break. Those thoughts may seem harmless in the moment, but they are building a framework in your mind that expects disappointment. And when you expect disappointment, you begin to notice and attract situations that confirm it. Your brain seeks evidence for what you already believe. If you tell yourself the world is full of unkind people, you will overlook the kindness around you and magnify every rude encounter. If you tell yourself opportunities are everywhere, your brain will start spotting them like hidden treasures. This isn't magic, it's simply the way the human mind works. There is a principle called neuroplasticity, which means your brain can rewire itself based on repeated thoughts and behaviors. Every thought you dwell on strengthens a neural pathway, making that type of thinking easier and more automatic. Think negatively often enough, and your brain becomes skilled at it. Think positively with persistence, and you literally train your mind to see life differently. It's like exercising a muscle. What you work on grows stronger. This means your reality is not fixed. It is continuously being shaped by the mental repetitions you choose every day. The most dangerous thing about negative thinking is how sneaky it is. It doesn't always scream in your face. It whispers in the background, disguising itself as being realistic or preparing for the worst. But the truth is, those thoughts don't protect you. They paralyze you. They make you hesitant to take action, reluctant to trust, and afraid to hope. And when you stop hoping, you stop moving forward. The walls you build to keep pain out also keep joy out. That's why being aware of your thoughts is the first step to changing your reality. You cannot fight an enemy you don't even see. Start noticing the patterns in your self-talk. Are you quick to see possibilities, or do you jump straight to worst-case scenarios? Do you encourage yourself like you would a friend, or do you criticize yourself in ways you'd never dare speak to another person? Self-awareness doesn't mean shaming yourself for negative thoughts. It means catching them before they set the course for your actions. Once you start noticing them, challenge them. If you think, I'll never be able to do this, ask yourself, is that really true? Or is it just my fear talking? Replace it with something more empowering like, I may not know how yet, but I'm willing to learn. These small shifts don't seem life-changing in the moment, but over weeks, months, and years, they shape a new inner reality. And that new inner reality creates a new outer life. Your reality is not shaped by the events themselves, but by what you tell yourself about those events. change the story, and you change the outcome. And if you can master your thoughts, you can master your life. Negativity often feels like it's just a part of who we are, as if some people are simply born more pessimistic than others. But the truth is, no one enters this world with a negative mindset. Watch a child, and you'll see curiosity, wonder, and hope in their eyes. They aren't afraid to dream big or believe the best about people. Negativity is something we pick up along the way through disappointments, betrayals, failures, and the influence of the people we spend time with. Over time, without even realizing it, it becomes a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken, replaced, and reprogrammed. Habits are formed through repetition. If you react to situations with doubt, fear, or criticism often enough, your brain begins to associate those reactions as your default setting. You stop questioning whether they are true or helpful, they just become automatic. This is why some people wake up expecting the day to be difficult before it even begins. They have trained their mind to anticipate problems instead of possibilities. But here's the liberating part: just as repetition creates the habit of negativity, repetition can also create the habit of optimism. Breaking a habit starts with awareness. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Many of us walk through life unaware of the constant stream of self-defeating thoughts running through our minds. We think they're just the way it is, rather than choices we've been making unconsciously. But the moment you start paying attention, catching yourself when you complain, predict the worst, or mentally tear yourself down, you've already taken the first step toward breaking free. The second step is intentional replacement. You can't just tell yourself, stop thinking negatively, and expect your brain to obey. You need to give it an alternative. If your mind says, I'm terrible at this, consciously replace it with, I'm still learning and I can improve. If it says, things never work out for me, replace it with, I've overcome challenges before and I can do it again. At first, this will feel forced, almost unnatural, because your mind is so used to the old pattern. But with consistency, the new thought becomes more familiar and the old one loses its grip. It's also crucial to examine your environment, because habits are not formed in isolation. They are influenced by what and who you surround yourself with. If the people in your life constantly complain, criticize, or focus on problems, that energy seeps into you. The same is true for what you consume: media, social feeds, conversations. If your environment feeds your negativity, breaking the habit will be much harder. You may need to distance yourself from certain influences or limit your exposure to them, not because you're judging them, but because you're protecting your mental health. Another key to breaking the habit of negativity is gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, from what's wrong to what's right. It's impossible to be deeply grateful and deeply negative at the same time. Start small. Each day, write down 3 things you're thankful for. At first, your list might feel repetitive or surface level, but over time, your brain starts scanning your life for the good instead of the bad. This retrains your mental habits and weakens negativity's hold. Patience is essential in this process. Habits that have taken years to build will not disappear overnight. Some days you'll catch yourself falling back into old patterns, and that's normal. The goal is not to never think a negative thought again. That's unrealistic. But to recognize them sooner, recover faster, and replace them more often. Over time, your recovery becomes so quick that negativity no longer feels like home, positivity does. Breaking the habit of negativity doesn't mean life suddenly becomes perfect. Challenges will still come, people will still disappoint you, and setbacks will still happen. But instead of reacting with automatic pessimism, you'll respond with resilience and solutions. You'll stop seeing difficulties as permanent and start seeing them as temporary hurdles you can overcome. You'll stop defining yourself by your failures and start defining yourself by your ability to rise after them. Negativity is not your identity. It's a habit you've practiced. And habits can be unlearned. Every moment you choose a hopeful thought over a hopeless one, you're weakening the old pattern and strengthening a new one. Eventually, the habit that once controlled you will lose its power, and you'll realize that the door to freedom was never locked. You just had to decide to walk through it. Perspective is the lens through which you see the world, and that lens determines whether you feel trapped or free. Two people can face the exact same challenge, lose the same job, go through the same heartbreak, experience the same setback, and yet one feels completely crushed while the other sees it as a turning point for something better. The difference isn't in the event, it's in how they choose to interpret it. Shifting your perspective doesn't mean denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means deciding to look at reality in a way that empowers you rather than imprisons you. When you hold on to a narrow or fixed perspective, life feels heavy. Problems look bigger than they are, and possibilities seem smaller than they could be. You end up replaying the same disappointments over and over in your mind, reinforcing the idea that life is unfair or that you're stuck where you are. But the truth is, most of the time you're not trapped by circumstances. You're trapped by the way you're looking at them. Freedom comes when you realize that your thoughts about a situation are not the situation itself, and you have the ability to change those thoughts. Shifting perspective starts with asking better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you can ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That simple change moves you from being a victim of life to being a student of life. A victim waits for circumstances to change before they can feel better. A student uses every circumstance as a lesson that contributes to their growth. When you shift in this way, you begin to see challenges as temporary and purposeful rather than permanent and pointless. This shift also affects how you see other people. When your perspective is clouded by negativity, you may interpret someone's behavior in the worst possible light, assuming they are against you, judging you, or trying to hurt you. But when you consciously choose to see things differently, you realize that people's actions often come from their own fears, struggles, and wounds. You may not agree with their behavior, but you free yourself from taking it personally. This doesn't just protect your peace, it also opens the door for healthier relationships and deeper understanding. Perspective determines whether an obstacle is a dead end or a detour. Many times in life, what looks like a closed door is actually redirecting you to a better path. But if you're stuck in a limited perspective, all you see is loss. When you shift your perspective, you start to see possibilities you couldn't see before, new routes, new strategies, new opportunities. This is why people who go through life, changing setbacks, often say, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me." It wasn't the event itself that was good. It was the way they learned to see it. Freedom comes when you stop demanding that life fit your expectations and start adapting your perspective to life as it unfolds. You stop clinging to the idea that things must happen in a certain way, and you start embracing the truth that there are many ways forward. This doesn't mean you give up on your goals, it means you stay open to different ways of reaching them. That flexibility removes a tremendous amount of stress because you're no longer fighting reality, you're working with it. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for shifting perspective. When you focus on what you still have instead of what you've lost, the weight of the loss becomes lighter. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it puts it in context. It reminds you that even in difficult seasons, there are blessings you can acknowledge. That awareness keeps you from sinking into hopelessness and instead lifts you toward resilience. Shifting your perspective is a choice, but it's a choice you have to make daily, sometimes moment by moment. The old way of seeing things may try to pull you back into fear, doubt, or resentment, but every time you choose a more empowering view, you take another step toward freedom. Over time, this becomes your new normal, not because life has become easier, but because you've become stronger, wiser, and freer in how you navigate it. In the end, your circumstances may not change immediately, but your experience of them will. When you change the way you look at things, the things themselves begin to look different. And in that difference, you find space to breathe, space to hope, and space to move forward. That is the kind of freedom no one can take away from you.